Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of DroppedMic. Earlier in the show, we addressed the topic of whether a guy and a girl can be best friends, and just that. We heard from our panelists. They answered your questions, and if you recall, we even had a very passionate caller that night. Tonight, we'll be addressing, part 2 of this topic, which goes as follows. Can two best friends transition into a relationship? And if they do, will that relationship work? Now, over the week, I did some research on the topic. I've spoken to some people who've either been through it themselves or they've been exposed to it, via their friends and many other ways. We've gathered a few questions for our panelists here. As you guys already know, I'm always joined by a few group of young professionals, and tonight again is no different. But before we get there, I want to thank you all for joining. And don't forget to share the video with your friends and family members. And if they don't have Facebook, remember that this is also being broadcasted on YouTube Live right now. And also, if you're on Instagram, and if you haven't done so, follow the show on Instagram. And I think it's at the DroppedMic Show. Well, that's it, yeah. To stay up to date and see some behind the scenes, right? Again, my name is Ted, and I'll be your host for tonight. Thank you for tuning in to DroppedMic. Thank you for being here, guys. And As always, I'm joined by a group of dynamic and very opinionated panelists. And tonight is no different. I'll have them introduce themselves, and I'll start with you, Rose.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Rose. I'm a mental health professional.
All
Hi,
right, we'll go
everybody.
to you, Victor.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Victor Campbell. I'm a student at Oakland University, and I'm also the
Thank you,
CFO
Victor.
of Hero.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And next we have Denise. I don't think we're getting any sound from you. I think your mic is probably muted.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. So my name is Paul Thanis Genty, but I go by Thanis for short. I'm a student attending Oakwood University, and I'm majoring in social work.
Thank you, and welcome to Drop Mic. And last but not least, we have Naika.
Hi, my name is Naika Million. I am a paralegal. I work for a personal injury law firm, and I'm also one of the founder of Nana Bell Event Planner. And yeah, Naika.
All right, all right. Well, thank you guys for joining. Thank you for your time. Without any further delay, I have a question for you, Rose. So,
Okay.
some people have said that I've known my best friend for so long. You know, we know each other's darkest secrets. We know everything about each other. So, therefore, the best thing for us to do now, since we're both single and looking, is to start a relationship. What do you think about that? And I guess my thing is, what's the best way to go about that transition?
Um, well, I mean, some of the best relationship definitely start out, with friendship. And especially when you become best friends, so you have a deeper connection with that person. And the friendship kind of allows you to see the person character without it being blurred by any type of sexual, I would say, attention. So
Mm-hmm.
over time, if you do end up, feel, I would say, attracted to the person, and after, careful consideration, and that's actually, you're willing to take the next step, I would say, you will know the person. And if they are being your best friend, you will know what they actually looking for in a partner, their significant other. And I would honestly say just start by flirting with them and see what happens.
Okay. So my question for you, Victor. So as Rose mentioned, her advice basically is to just start flirting with the person, right? So my question for you, Victor, is let's say you start talking to that best friend of yours, right? And then they tell you, hey, yeah, we're both single and looking, but I don't see you like, there's a chance you may lose the best and the friend. So
Hmm.
what do you think is your next move if that were to happen?
So I mean, me personally, my next move would just be like, try to back off because you don't want to force anything to happen. Especially with the fact that you don't want to lose the best or the friend, but sometimes things just have to happen naturally. Especially like with you being friends, when you go into that relationship stage, things can get ugly. Things can really like turn everything around, and then you really do lose your best friend. So it's like if they're not really on the same wavelength as you, it's better for you to just continue moving forward and
Mm-hmm.
kind of hope things work out, or But me personally, I'm just gonna let the thing just ride its own way.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So my question for Denise is, so with both of them being single and looking, I guess, do you think that flirting with the best friend is done out of convenience because they don't want to step out of their comfort zone and date other people?
That might be the case, but as for
Mm-hmm.
me, if we made it clear, or if my best friend made it clear that they don't see anything more than just that friendship, then I wouldn't pursue with the relationship. I would, like what Victor said, I would take a step back. And I know how it
Mm-hmm.
feels to, like, starting all over, getting to know someone else, but um, it's not going to work out if both of you guys are not on the same page.
Yeah. Okay. And so, Naika, so a lot of times, well, there's this article that was published that said your best friend is typically another version of yourself. You become friends with people that are like you, like-minded. You guys like the same things. And basically, they said most of the time your significant other is different, right? Would you agree?
Yes, I would definitely agree that your significant other is different and your best friend
Mm-hmm.
is probably someone that kind of mirror your personality where you can actually
Mm-hmm.
click on a different level than your significant other. I would definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. So a follow-up question for you on that is,
Mm-hmm.
so do you think because
Yes.
of that, since the
Mm-hmm.
best friend is basically a mirror image of yourself, do you think that can hinder the relationship to move forward?
Um, definitely. Definitely. Like me personally, I wouldn't really
Mm-hmm.
date someone that's literally my best friend that I know everything about because I feel like just because you're my best friend doesn't mean that we are compatible in a relationship, meaning like a romantic relationship. So
Yeah.
to me, although it is important to kind of build a friendship with your significant other and kind of treat them like a best friend, but having
Mm-hmm.
a best friend doesn't mean you are compatible with that person for them to be your partner
Mm.
because there's a lot that comes to play with having a long-term partner. It's not just we share the
Mm-hmm.
same, you know, we share the same interests. It's not just that, it's physical attraction. It plays a part with it.
Mm-hmm.
I know most people don't want to seem cliche, but it's most people don't want to seem like they're, they just superficial, they just see look. But the truth is, it's not only about, I get along well with that person. Am I physically attracted to that person? Do I feel safe with that person? There's a lot that,
Mm.
plays into that, having a long-term
Yeah.
partnership, because sometimes it doesn't work out when you don't have that physical attraction with that person to that person. Yeah.
Okay. Very good point. And so the
Mm-hmm.
question I have next for Tanis is, do you think that since starting a friendship sometimes is kind of like the same as starting a new relationship, right? So along that, yeah. So along those lines, do you think that it's going to be easy or easier because you won't have to vet that person as you would with a stranger?
So repeat the question. You said if I'm starting a
So they
new
were already your
friendship
friend, right?
with someone. Okay,
No,
so they
so
are my friend.
yeah, that person was already your best friend, and now you're transitioning into that dating phase. Do you think it will be easier since you won't have to vet them because you already know so much about them?
Yeah, I would be. But then again, we will both have to be on that same page
Mm-hmm.
to move on to like a romantic, stage, because when you're getting to know someone,
Mm-hmm.
you get to know them mentally, you get to know them emotionally, you get to know them, and get to know them as a friend. Nothing more, like nothing non-romantic, but it's different when it becomes romantic because then you're going to get to know them like on in a physical way. You're going to get to know them in different ways that you wouldn't have known if you guys were just friends. So, yeah.
Okay. So, Victor, with someone knowing all your secrets, right? They most of the time they know who you've had a crush on, they know who you like, and all of those, so many things you've told them in the past, right? So some people have said that this is actually not the easiest ground to build a relationship on. What do you think about that?
I can agree and disagree with the fact that you never want to be in a relationship based off of anyone I get into a relationship with, but at the same time it can be very awkward and it can be very embarrassing having someone who knows everything, especially as a college student on a campus where it's very, very small. You don't want to be in the cafeteria and an ex walk in and it's just a big problem. But I'll prefer my significant other know everything about me so there's no issue or no he say, she say when it comes to like anything in my past. She knows everything, and because she knows everything, there's no surprises coming up. So I feel like it'd be better for them to understand and to know about my past rather than me having to have a blow up, and next thing you know, I'm looking like a bad guy because I tried to hide something.
Yeah. So basically, are you saying that it's better for you to be best friends first and move on to that relationship phase, or is it still possible for you to build that friendship with that person in the relationship and tell them about things that have happened?
So best friends and friends, I feel like are very different titles. I don't necessarily say best friends have to like lead into a relationship. Friends, I feel like friends is good enough to where you still have that differentiation between you don't know everything about me. When it comes to like best, because there's different types of relationships. You have agape, you have Felipe, you have all those different, and it's like everyone sits in a specific category, and some people just need to stay in that category. Not everything has to like bleed together. So like there's some people who just because they are attractive and just because you guys relate in a different way means that you guys have to push it further because y'all may not work out in that sense, and you don't want to ruin a good thing. Why fix something that's not broken? But at the same time, if you're both feeling each other, then it's like try it out. But the thing is, love is a risk regardless of what you do. You never know where this is going to lead. You never know if people are going to change. So it's like, are you willing to take the risk, and are you willing to really gamble on your friendship with this person?
Okay. So my next question is for you, Rose, and I would like to hear from everybody else about on that one as well. So you become friends with somebody, right? They end up becoming your best friends over time, and now you guys have made that jump into a relationship, right? Yeah. So that best friend that you once had is now your significant other, right? And so some people have gotten to a point where now I have a significant other, but I don't have a best friend. So I'm going to start to look for another best friend, right? Do you think it's okay to do that? And what are the, what can I say? I guess some of the bad things that can happen as a result of that.
Well, I think most of us actually have more than one best friend. And I know at least, for me, I have, very, very close friends. And I think, communication, you must be vulnerable. And especially when you're taking, that deep level where you be like, okay, we're no longer best friend, but we are trying, to build a relationship. And that's basically the basic for any type of relationship. And you will hear a lot of people in their relationship will tell you, okay, my significant other is my best friend. And I don't think necessarily you have to go out there and look for another best friend unless you feel like there's a missing piece, you know? And at least I know, at least, in my relationship, I started out, being, friends and best friend, with my partner. And we decided to make the switch because we actually sat down together, we talk about it, we communicate, we were vulnerable with each other. Because you have to
Yeah.
understand that you making that commitment to allow yourself to be vulnerable to that person, and and it's like you basically telling them, okay, I'm opening my heart to you, and I'm trusting that you actually going to be able to take care of it for me, right? So I would have to say that will definitely has to be a conversation, and of course there's going to have to be boundary. Now if that best friend come out of nowhere, there will be some type of problem there. But I think, just from a close friends becoming someone best friend, for me, it wouldn't be any problem
Yeah.
as long as, there's transparency for me and my relationship. So we will communicate about it. And if, we talk about it, we understand each other, and first and foremost, the person must be honest with themselves as well as with me. And I'm basically
Yeah.
going to just trust them and go along with that. But in most
Okay.
relationship, there will definitely be that. And I think sometimes it do with the person insecurity, like you were saying, the best friend knows everything about you. Um, let's say, like you date a lot of people and they were always that person
Yeah.
that you will go and vent to them. And now you dating them, and in the back of their mind, those behavior from your past, it's there. And this is where it could actually become a problem because they'd be like, okay, man, you used to jump from Peter to Bob, like from Mackinson to Pushon. Now that I'm in a relationship with you, it's like, okay, are you going to be doing the same thing? Especially, things like that. So I think the conversation before you even make the leap, you have to kind of weigh out the risk. So as long as everyone is on the same page and, with the communication, it's just not to talk to talk. You have to be
Yeah.
vulnerable with each other. That transparency and that honesty, so that way you put that person at ease to know that, okay, this is something that we both are willing to do. What are you willing to sacrifice? Relationship is give and
Yeah.
take. So what is it that I'm willing to give, and what are you willing to give, so that we could come together as a team to make this work?
Okay. And what do you think about that, Victor?
With a lot of what she was saying, where at the root of it, communication is really the only thing that really can get you through it. Because if you're able to communicate effectively, then you're able to get through a lot of the problems that a lot of relationships face. And and not even like just on a romantic level, but just like friendships as well. There's nothing like
Yeah.
a person whose communication language is different than another person. Some people, they're like, for instance, with me and my partner, we're kind of different when it comes to communicating. I'm one of those, when we have a problem, let's face it head on. What's going on? What's the problem? While she's one, let's take a step back and let's observe it from different perspectives. Like, she wants to look at her own self, and she wants me to go look at myself. I'm like, no, let's sit and talk it together. And it's frustrating because you have this battle between each other. So it's like, when we come as best friends, it's like, and like she said, some people have more than one best friend. I can
Yeah.
see that. I have family that I put in a small circle, and then everyone's kind of out outside of it. But it's weird when you because I've done a relationship where it's like it's gone from best friend to like relationship status, and it didn't work because of that communication
Yeah.
level. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you don't know how to tell your best friend, you're getting on my nerves, because as best friends, you never really get in each other's nerves. You kind of play off of each other. But when it gets into that relationship stage, it's just like, now they want to be
Yeah.
there 24/7. Now they want to be in your face 24/7. But you just like, as best friends, you can say, all right, I'm going to sleep, goodbye. When you're in a relationship, it's just like, some people are clingy. Some people are like, they have to be around you all the time. And as one who likes their space, it's just like, all right, chill, I'm good. So I feel like communicating with what will happen if this does not work. Will we still be friends? Are you want to like burn bridges? Are you want to like block on social media, block on phone, never see each other again? If I see you in public, I'm walking the opposite way. It's like you have to have those hard conversations of, will this work? And if it doesn't, what will happen?
Yeah. Okay. And what do you think about that, Denise?
So for me, best friends, I don't know. But as for best friends and best proper that, no boy, Maladen. I disagree with that. But we should be able to communicate. We should be able to talk about whatever the situation may be, whether it's good or bad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because as a friend, like even if I'm with a friend or with a guy or with a female, like I'm gonna be honest with you, and I would want you to be honest with me. We should be able to talk things out. We should be able to communicate. We should be able to get through whatever the situation may be. You know what I mean? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying it's not okay to like have like a same sex partner, but you're not
Yeah.
gonna find another to be your best friend. No, sir.
So basically, you're telling me that you disagree with your significant other being best friends with the opposite sex.
I disagree.
And can you elaborate on that for us, please?
Okay, so it's not insecurities. It's not none of that. People are gonna assume
Mm-hmm.
that, but boundaries that just need to be set. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm-hmm.
your female best friend should not be knowing things that are going on within our relationship. I'm not saying all females are spiteful. I'm not saying that all females bring drama into relationships, but you don't know what they're capable of. You know what I mean? If he's sharing to a different, opposite sex about what they're going through, you know what I mean? She may use him. He's being vulnerable to her, and she might just use him, like by trying to push herself on him and etc. Again, I don't know. I'm not speaking for all females, but just to generalize everything, like no, no. So
Okay.
yeah.
And what do you think, Naika?
Okay. So for in the beginning, I think you asked if you're in a relationship. If I'm not clear, you can just correct me. Are you saying that if you're
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship with someone, am I okay with them having a new best friend? Is that the question? Like just
Yeah. So basically, you guys were best friends. Now
hmm
you guys are dating, right?
exactly.
So you're no longer best friends.
And
You
then
just
they're
you're their significant other,
yeah, now I'm
right? So
I'm their
now they're looking
significant
for another
other.
best friend.
Absolutely not. It doesn't make sense to me because I feel like people are just so stuck in like titles. You don't need another best
Mm.
friend. You can have another friend, but why does it have
Yeah.
to be another best friend? That's not necessary. I just don't think it's necessary. But if I was in a relationship with you, we were best friend, and you
Mm-hmm.
had another best friend, maybe you had two best friend, I have no problem with that because
Okay.
you had that best friend before. And I feel like it's more of like a personality thing because some people may not be able to handle someone that has a best friend, like another opposite sex best friend. It's really based
Mm-hmm.
on the personality. If I'm gonna date someone that has a best friend, then I need to make sure that I'm really secure and confident that that person actually is focused on me. Like if you don't have that problem, if you feel like you can always sense if someone have feeling for someone else. You could like I feel like
Mm.
woman instinct would always tell you. So if you have
Really?
a best friend, but you could always tell if you have a best friend and your significant other tried to kind of like separate the relationship, meaning like they could only be his friend, but they cannot be my friend. That's a problem because why do we have to separate the relationship? So if my partner is very open with me and I know that's their best friend and I get to know the best friend, I have I have no problem with that, because obviously it it didn't work out with the best friend, and that person didn't want the best friend. They wanted me. So I feel like I shouldn't have a problem with that. But if I'm already in the relationship and you're kind of going out of your
Mm-hmm.
way to search for another best friend, it doesn't make sense. That title is not
Okay.
necessary. You can have another friend, but you don't need another best friend to me.
Okay. So
Yeah.
my other question to you, I remember when we had that previous episode that kind of talked about can a guy and a girl be best friend. We had a caller, and his question was if there are certain things you can tell your significant other. I mean, certain things that you can tell your best friend that you cannot tell your significant other. So along those lines, don't you think that it makes sense for your significant other to have a best friend?
I don't mind my significant having a best friend. What I do mind is you're you're going out of your way to search for another best friend when we're like when we are dating. Like that's the part that doesn't make sense to me. Because
Okay.
it's like, why do you need to go out of your way to create another relationship or a best friend relationship? That still doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. But if you had one
Okay.
before, then I understand. Yeah.
So, Denise, I know you were against the idea of having a best friend of the opposite sex, right, for your significant other. So, going back to that caller from last, I think a couple weeks back, they said, well, their question was, what can you tell your best friend that you cannot tell your significant other? So, I want to ask you that question. What is your opinion?
For me, like I stated before, I'm a very direct person. So if I
Yeah.
feel any type of way, I will address it to my significant other, which is supposed to be my best friend, you know?
Yeah.
So I will hope that he will do the same in return, you know? Just out of respect. And just to piggyback
Okay.
on what Nika said, I agree 100% with I agree with everything that she said. But don't go out your way to go find another best friend, because then now you problems to have a problem. So no. Mm-mm.
Okay. So, a question I have for Rose. Do you think there's a difference between the being compatible with your best friend and compatible with your significant other? How do they differ?
Well, I mean, for the best friend, it's I would say based mostly, on friendship. And on the surface level, it's someone that it's fun for you to talk to. You guys
Yeah.
could either share, darkest secret, like people usually say. Um, and it's someone that you are able to be silly with. And I know that it definitely the same thing must apply in your relationship, or if it's like, you in a marriage. You must be able to talk to that person, you know, have that transparency for them. You have fun, you guys make silly jokes. And I think where the difference come on for me is our hopes and our dreams, you know. Um, do I see you as someone that I want to spend the rest of my life with? Just
Yeah.
because we are friends, that does not mean that person will be a great partner for you. Some people are just meant to be in your life as a friend, and they support
Yeah.
you and be part of your life just as a friend. Where if you able to, take it to the next level, then those deep questions you have to start asking yourself that. Okay, what are our, our religious view? Political belief, because I could be friends with someone who's a Muslim. That doesn't mean that I want to get married to someone, with that faith, And it's the same thing, like,
Yeah.
with the political belief. Okay, what are your view on raising your children? So I think once you start getting into those deep issues, that's kind of where you will definitely, I guess, put yourself in a line to know that, okay, this person, we could just be friends. There are certain things that, their thoughts, their different aim in life may not be aligned with
Mm-hmm.
with my view, then you were like, okay, even though I was going to consider for us to take it to the next level, I think we're better off being friends. And it definitely has to take for you to be honest with yourself as well. Just because the person is your friend, yes, you guys get along pretty well, it does not mean when you get into the relationship it's going to be like that. And making the transition, you basically have to kind of separate it. They're not your friend anymore. They are someone that you will, I would say, eventually wants to, build a life with. So there are certain conversations that need to be had where as a friend you could just be joking about it. But I think for me it will come down to the moral and my core values. Are they aligned with yours? Before I'm even willing to take this step, we could talk about it, and then I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel right with me. And I think which is why in relationship, or even if it's just someone off the street that you met, before you even allow yourself to take the intimate level, what are the deal breakers, like some of the ladies say? Where are we going to draw the boundaries? What are certain things that I'm allowing myself to compromise with you, where at the same time I'm not disrespecting myself just to make you happy, or just for me to just say that I'm going to have a partner.
Okay.
And I think
So I
once
have a
you're
follow-up
able to
question.
kind of go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, you go. I lost my train of thought. It's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So you said
Okay.
something that was really interesting because you mentioned that you want to make sure that your moral values are aligned, right? So my question
Yes.
for you is, if that person was your best friend, don't you think those values were aligned to some extent?
Yeah, to some extent, but as far as for me is that let's just say, for example, religious for me. Um, I would like for someone to be at the same faith as me.
Yeah.
So when the going get tough, that person will be like, okay, babe, you know what? We are going through a hard time right now. Let's just get on our knees and pray to God. I don't want to have that
Yeah.
thought in the back of my mind. Which God are you going to pray for? Because my God answer my prayer. I don't know what about you. Things like that. And
Yeah.
like political beliefs, I don't mind. We don't have to be into the same party, but at least once those values are actually, I would say it has to be okay for me, because I don't want to go into the relationship just because you're my friend, but at the same time, I'm not holding myself up to the standard that I set for everyone else. Just because you're my friend, I don't have to lower it for you.
Yeah. Okay. And I have a question for Victor. So, Victor, you've been best friends with somebody for a while, right? And then now you want to transition into a relationship with that person. How can you really tell if you're actually interested in that person or if you're just doing it out of, I guess, well, they're already there, so let me just ask them out?
It comes down to like knowing thyself, because like you said, you guys already share a special connection. So you guys are best friends, so you already have like
Yeah.
the basis of just like, oh, we have something in common at least. And, it's more than just most people, because this is my best friend. It's not a normal friend. But you have to like really understand: am I just attracted to this person because they look good? Am I just attracted to this person because they're there and they're the only person who really understands me? You cannot go. I feel like you cannot make decisions based off of emotions. You have to sit back and actually look at, how does this work? Does this person, like my friend was just saying, do we match up morally? Is there red flags that some people may feel like it's not important, while to me that's a deal breaker? It's like you have to go back and actually sit down with yourself and have that conversation of just, is this person someone who I can see myself building a life with, not just having a friendship with? Because once you go towards that, and at least from my perspective, you date towards building something. You don't just date. So can this turn into something long term, and can I be happy long term with this person? Friends, even best friends, people change, and you granted people can change in a relationship, but it's like, am I really willing to accept everything about this person and be committed for a long term relationship? I feel like that comes down to just knowing what you want and having that hard conversation with yourself.
Okay. And I have one last question for the remaining two ladies. So I'll start with you, Tanise. Do you think that since the person was your best friend, you will tend to ignore red flags that they've shown in the past once you're ready to move on to that relationship phase?
Nope. Nope. I believe a red flag is a deceptive. No. So I can share one of my I have a guy friend, and we're just friends, but it's just the little things, like he would work on the Sabbath and stuff like that, and it did cross my mind, like, if we were to ever be together, like, will I be okay with that? No, sir, I would not be okay with it. So I don't think I personally would ignore the red flags, but there's some people out there that do ignore the red flags just because they have like that bond with that individual.
Okay. What do you think about that, Nika?
A red flag is a red flag. You cannot ignore a red flag because it's just red shining at your face. It's a red flag. I would personally, a red flag doesn't always have to be a bad thing, because it just creates a room for you guys to communicate better, to actually discuss what you like and what you don't like. You can turn that red flag into building the relationship and making it stronger. So it does, if you really like that person, it's not that you're ignoring it, but you can actually address the issue and talk about it and work on whatever you're having problem with. So, but it's still a red flag. You still have to address it, and you use that as a way to actually build something better, since you would like that person, so you would want to move forward with them. So
okay. And so we're about to take a break, but just before we take that break, guys, I have one last question for y'all, right? And I want to remind our audience that when we come back from the break, we'll be taking questions from you. Either you can call in, the number will be on the screen shortly, or you'll be able to ask questions directly in the comment section on Facebook and on YouTube. So now, guys, my last question before we take our break. So some people, right, they've avoided, even though they know that they have real feelings for that best friend, and they want to transition to that next step. But their fear is that, let's say things don't work out down the line. We've been best friends for a long time. We've developed mutual friends. Their fear is that, okay, we're probably going to go to some functions, family functions, and we're going to run into each other. We're not together, and it's going to be awkward for everybody else. What advice do you guys have for somebody to navigate a situation like that? I'll start with you, Rose.
I think one of the ladies actually said that before you even dig into that step of the transition, you basically just have to have that conversation. Okay, if things does not work out, how are we going to allow ourselves to move on? Are we going to take a little break from not seeing each other, and then after that everything will go good? But I would honestly say, unless something horribly happened while we were dating, I do not see any reason why you shouldn't at least be. I understand if you don't want to be best friend with the person, but at least the friendship should at least, be able to remain there.
Okay. What do you think, Victor?
I feel like it goes back to, like I was saying, knowing before you get into it, because I don't burn bridges. I'm one of those who like I like to try to fix things and like tying into like the red flags. It's like not all red flags are like deal breakers. It's just having to know what
Mm-hmm.
red flags are red flags. So it's like you have to have that conversation with your best friend of if this does not work out, you know what I'm saying? What is going on? Are we going to doesn't what's going to happen? Because I know plenty of people who is just like, all right, once we start dating, I know you too well for me to just be like, all right, we can go back to being friends. Because things change. It's not the same as being a best friend. It's more intimate. And it's like some people seeing that person constantly is a constant reminder of we could have been something or the emotions of what was going on in that relationship and they can't move past it. They can't move forward. So you have to block them. You have to block them on Instagram. You have to block them on Facebook in order for you to heal yourself. So it's like I don't
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't burn bridges, but it's like it comes down to is it toxic or not? You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be trying to hold on to a friendship while you're deeply hurting inside. So it's just like have that
Yeah.
conversation of I'm one of those people. If this does not work, I can't continue with you because it's just going to be constant pain for myself. And my happiness is the most thing important to me.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Victor. And so Denise, basically, you were best friends with somebody, right? And now some people they know that they have real feelings for that person, but they're afraid of taking that next step because their biggest fear is that okay, let's say the relationship doesn't work, and then now we're no longer together, but we used to be best friends. We have mutual friends, and now we're around our friends and we're exes, right? And then it's awkward for everybody. So basically, it's how do you navigate a situation like that? I don't think we can hear you, Denise.
Oh, I don't. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes, we hear you now.
Okay. So I was in that situation where I was best
Mm-hmm.
friend with a guy, and
Mm-hmm.
um, of course we had broken up. So
Yeah.
it became awkward for a lot of people, including for us. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just such a direct person. Like I like to communicate. So
Yeah.
if you are comfortable enough, the advice I would give that individual is if you're comfortable enough, you should definitely have a conversation with that person because that person was not a stranger. Like he's not a stranger, or he or she is not a stranger. This person used to be your best friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely recommend the individual to communicate how they feel, and
Yeah.
they continue. If they want to be around one another, if they do, if they don't, then yeah.
Okay. And what do you think, Naika?
Um, it really depends on how the relationship ended. I think
Mm-hmm.
somebody mentioned like also it depends on if it was toxic or if it ended on a good note, and it also depends on the
Yeah.
person. And all of this, there's a lot of factors that plays with this awkwardness and weirdness. Like things are awkward if you make it awkward. Things are weird if you make it weird. But if you communicate effectively, then it doesn't have to be that way. So, like Tan said, it just depends on how you knew that person. So the best thing to do is to communicate with that person. And if you guys don't want to be friends, you don't have to be friends. But if you feel like the relationship didn't end on a bad note, it's just like mutual understanding, then I don't feel like there's a need to feel uncomfortable if you're communicating with that person.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for your answers. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll be taking questions and calls from the audience. Thank you for tuning in. You're watching the Drop Mic.
An army of youth from all walks of life, dedicated and devoted to making a difference in the community. We strive to be the change that we want to see, putting our God-given talents to good use while relying on Him for guidance and strength. We do not reject tradition. We simply seek improvement. By turning both strengths and flaws into assets for the Lord, we are heavily armed with mass construction weapons, those of faith, hope, love, and prayer. And we are looking to impact every single individual we encounter. We are PDF Ministry, proactive and devoted faith ministry.
All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in. So now we have some questions from the audience for our panelists. So there's a question on YouTube, and the person asked, what is the difference between deep affection for someone and love? And is it possible that you just deeply care for your best friend and not love them? I'll start with you, Naika.
Can you ask that question again? Because it's kind of, there's so many layers to it.
Yeah, so basically they said, what is the difference between deep affection for someone and love?
Mm-hmm.
And is it possible that you just deeply care for your best friend and rather than loving them?
I would say, I feel like you can love anyone. I feel like having love for someone is basically showing respect, probably being there for that person. I feel like anyone can love anyone. It's just love. We're supposed to have God love and love our neighbor. But having like deep affection for someone, I feel like it's definitely different than just loving someone. I know with deep affection for someone is different for most people. Sometimes deep affection could probably mean almost, it could be very unhealthy, and love could be something that's not unhealthy. And I do feel like there is a difference between the two of them. And you can possibly have deep affection for someone and not. What was the question? Can you have deep affection for someone and not love them? Was that really the question?
For the best friend.
Yeah, I feel like that could be possibly a case for some people. As far as knowing the difference between each of them, it's kind of like hard because I feel like love to some people is different than others, and deep affection for some people is different. So it's kind of hard to define for me. But if someone else can help, they can.
All right, so just before I go to the other panelists, we have a caller on the line. So we'll take that call right now. Hello.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
My my question for the panel, I want somebody, the panel, to elaborate on why would you guys think a red flag is a stepping stone to build on something? Because a red flag is not supposed to be ignored. I know quand ici, pas qu'on change couleur, so there's no reason why if you see a red flag, you're gonna force yourself and in a way try to fix that. The person already show you who they are. Why you not taking that in consideration?
Okay. Well, thank you for calling and thank you for the question. So, what do you
Thank
guys
you.
think?
Since I'm definitely go ahead, Richard.
Um, I was just gonna say, red flags don't necessarily mean that the person is broken or the person is doing something that is toxic. It just means there's something that you may not like or you may not agree with that's in the way. For instance, when you have a computer and it flashes a notification saying that the story is full, you don't throw the whole computer away. What you do is you either delete something off of it or you continue to use it because that's a problem you can deal with. You see what I'm saying? So it's like when a red flag pops up, not all red flags are deal breakers. Not all red flags mean this person and I cannot work. Are you willing to accept that part of them and continue to live on? Some people can fall in love with a person's character versus their attraction. To them, that their physical features is a red flag. You know, they're not physically something I'm deeply in love with and I can't find this anywhere else. They're able to move past that and build a beautiful relationship because they've ignored that red flag. If that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Naika.
Oh yeah, because I'm the one that says that if you see like a red
Yeah.
flag cannot be ignored. If you see a red flag, it's there. It's a red flag. The thing is that you just have to address a red flag because the red flag just simply means that it's something that you don't feel comfortable with or you don't agree with, but it doesn't mean that the person is, terrible or have, it's a terrible, the person is not a good person because it's a red flag for you. So to me, a red flag is just an opportunity to actually have a conversation, to try to communicate well in the relationship, to discuss what you don't like, or to see how you can work on your relationship and bettering it. But if you feel like the red flag keep reoccurring and you feel like it's something that you cannot deal with, then it should not be ignored. You should decide if it's something that you can deal with or if it's something that you're just gonna have to move forward. But it doesn't necessarily mean once you see a red flag, I'm done. That's not the proper way to communicate, and it's not healthy to me. You have to address it.
Okay. I want to hear from Denise and then Rose.
Okay, so I definitely agree with Nika. Address the situation, address the red flag, because there's just certain things we just won't be able to tolerate. For example, I'm not saying this is a red flag, but for example, if I have a roommate and she snores,
Yeah.
I can't do nothing about it.
Yeah.
All I can do is get up and go somewhere else so that I can get the proper sleep that I need. It's the same thing as a relationship. If you can't stay there to tolerate that sound, why stay? You're not comfortable. You can't move forward. So why stay? I don't stay on the bed. I go on the couch. But if I'm sleeping there before her, of course, she has to go somewhere else. But you can't ignore red flags. It cannot be ignored. It cannot be ignored. You have to address it. And if it's something that you cannot tolerate, I would not advise you to move forward with that relationship.
Okay. What about you, Rose?
Um, Basically on the same thing that Tanis was saying, like, which you're comfortable. So for you to even being with someone, you have to have that sense of connection. Like that's someone that you want to be with. That's someone that, when you see them, you get butterfly. So I have to be able
Mm-hmm.
to feel like, I am safe around you. So, and I think an example I could give, like, with a red flag, just because someone is your best friend, that does not mean that they don't have flaws, right? And it would be the same thing in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship if you have a partner. So, like, for
Yeah.
instance, if you notice that, while you were best friend, that person always comes to you and kind of like emotionally dumping everything on you, right? Whenever they have any type
Mm-hmm.
of problem. But when it come down to your problem or any type of concern that you have, you see that they dismiss your emotion. But as for you, you're always there for them. I will definitely see that's a red flag. And if you do move on to a relationship with the person, they will be doing the same thing to you in the relationship. So, and there, everyone is saying there are some type of red flag that when you get into the relationship, you could be like, okay, that's something that I'm willing to compromise. And whereas
Yeah.
there's some of them that it's definitely a deal breaker and we could just continue to be as a best friend. But in a relationship, you will want to have that deep emotionally bond with that person. And if you my partner and something is going on with me and then I come to you, and even though we talk about communication, and one of the things that I do notice with communication, you could talk to someone all day long, like talk their head off. If they do not have that comprehension to understand where you are coming from, you're just talking to talk. So if
Yeah.
I already see that type of trait into the person, whether I have a mutual attraction to you, I'm gonna be like, you know what, I'd rather go with another person just because we're best friends. We don't actually have to be in a relationship because that's going to be something that you're constantly going to fight about. And with communication,
Yeah.
effective communication, you have to be able to understand the person. So that way, whatever message that they are conveying to you, you basically let them know, okay, I hear you, I understand your feeling. What are some of the steps that I can take for me to make you not feel that way, not just dismiss the emotion altogether?
I wanted to add something because I know
Yeah.
earlier I feel like I said that you have to address the red flag, but there are certain red flags that once I address it, I'm just probably gonna address it once and then I move forward. Because if one of the red
Yeah.
flag is you beating me, of course I'm gonna address it and also keep it moving. I'm not gonna try to work things out because
Mm-hmm.
you prove yourself and that's something that I cannot handle. If you're having a conflict with me and the red flag is you put your hands on me, of course I will let you know I don't like it, but it will be I'm gonna tell you this once and I'm probably never gonna have to have that conversation ever. I'll just keep it moving. So there is certain red flags where you should just that red flag was
And
Okay.
just trying to pick
So
back off of Nikita.
yeah, go ahead.
It's you have to understand the severity of the red flag because you have to remember you can't change people. People have to change themselves, and even change is not permanent. If you
Yeah.
see a red flag and you go about what can change that, and something that can change later, or it's not that bad, and it's like you're constantly with this red flag disappears, not going to this problem itself has not been. So like you have to understand what like can I deal with it? Can I be comfortable in my relationship with life? If not, maybe this is not the relationship for me. If I can, maybe we can go forward and being true to thyself. Don't say, oh, I can deal with this red flag because you want to be in a relationship and you feel lonely. And then later down the road, this red flag really is saying if you're the one who doesn't like snoring past it, promise you that you guys have part of your relationship that snoring is going to be even more annoying just because you're upset. You see what the red flag is, and then make moves based off of that.
Okay. So someone asked a question on YouTube. Well, that's actually Facebook. So they said, question for the panel. What would you consider the general deal breaker red flags across the board, and what are the ones that can be addressed specifically? I'll start with you, Tanise.
You said that can be addressed?
Yeah, which ones are deal breakers and which ones can be addressed?
Me personally, there's a lot of deal breakers for me, but for one is if we're arguing and you decide to touch me, I know it's a wrap. I'm leaving. Why am I gonna stay for? Because what if the argument becomes like something bigger than whatever we was arguing about for you to even touch me? You know what I mean? If he could do it one time and you don't address it, it's gonna happen again the second time, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and it's gonna continue that, and then you're gonna eventually tolerate it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
But you say red flags that I can, talk about with my partner.
What other ones can you address?
Without leaving?
Yeah. I guess that's what the question was asking.
Pass.
I'm sorry?
I don't have an answer for that one.
Oh, okay.
Because she's locked.
I'll go to you. I'll go to you, Victor.
So red flags, I feel like personal because to me, what red flag is could be completely different. Like, for instance, for me, a red flag is religion. Me and my partner or my partner have to be on the same page when it comes to religion because I'm not, like I said, I'm trying to change people, and even if someone does changing for their significant other, I don't believe terms. But I have seen a relationship where one person was one religion and another person was a non-believer, and that person was conformed. But they conformed for themselves. You see what I'm saying? They didn't conform for the relationship. So I feel like red flags is very personal, but a big red flag for me is communication. If you're one to not be able to express how you are, one to not be able to communicate putting hands on you is a way of people communicating. You see what I'm saying? If you don't know how to communicate in a way that can be productive, I feel like that's just toxic because no matter what we do, it's just be constant cycles of just problem after it's not going to get solved. It's just covering up. Something that I guess is a red flag when past it. Shoot. I don't even know. I guess. Oh, okay. On ambitions. Some people aren't very ambitious in their life, or they're kind of, that's a red flag. I feel like if you're not constantly trying to better yourself, you're kind of used to society because it's to the point you're complacent with who you are and where you are. You're trying to make anything better, and if you're but that's not necessarily something where you're just like, oh, I can't be with this person, because all they need is that spark of something that, it's something, a purpose. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily something where it's just like, oh, I couldn't be with this person because they don't have any ambition. It's just like, all right, let's spend our lives together trying to find something that we both are passionate about. And that way we can build a ministry together that we're both thriving in and are happy together.
Okay. Thank you. And I think we have another caller on the line. Hello.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I'm joining the conversation. I think there's some good questions, and I want to address. I don't have a question necessarily. I just want to address the red flags. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yes, I just want to address the difference or the fine line between the red flags and deal breakers. I think the red flag, um, like one of your panelists, Naika, was saying, and was that sometimes it can be, I feel personally, it can become a deal breaker, but it doesn't necessarily mean just run. I think it's mostly a warning sign. For example, if I think you used an example earlier that said that if someone is abusive, and abuse doesn't necessarily become physical. Before it becomes physical, it can become verbal abuse. It can be emotional abuse. So if you are noticing those signs, that can become a deal breaker, because now you're like, okay, this person addresses me in a manner that doesn't make me feel comfortable. You know, they always say, oh, why you're dressed like that? You kind of look fat, or why do you have to go out like that? Who are you talking to? You can see different signs that will later on tell you, this is a red flag that I can either address, or it can become, okay, this person giving me sign of an abusive person, and I can move on. So you have to kind of really learn the person that you're with and learn to kind of study them, because I think that's very important when we're kind of differentiating between the red flag and, a deal breaker. The deal breaker for me is definitely something that doesn't align with your values. Someone is a straight up atheist. I'm going to love you, but you're not going to become my partner because I believe strongly in God. So that's a total deal breaker. Even if we wanted to have a relationship, we know for sure that it's not a question. There's no talking about it until I can see that, hey, this person is actually, aligning with my beliefs. So that is what I wanted to add. So those are minor examples that I could find, but so it's always important to kind of notice, okay, are those red flags something that I can address, or are they the red flags that can become a deal breaker? So I think those are the 2 points that I wanted to add.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And so we have another question on YouTube, guys. Someone asked, if you break up with someone, do you break up with their friends as well? Start with you, Rose.
I mean, as far as with the friends or their mutual friends, if we are mutual friends, that's, and I think that kind of went back to the question that you have, okay, the awkwardness, are we going to be able to be around each other? I mean, if we have mutual friends, no, I think we should still be able to be around each other. And I think it also going to have to take some type of communication with the friends. Now, if we have mutual friends and, when they break up, they take your side, now I'm probably going to have to question it just a little bit. And it's also going to have to become, with honesty, where they, trying to tell me, okay, what happened is that both of you guys have to take part into it, because in a relationship is the two. And, but I don't see why I have to break up with my friend just because, we didn't work out. Now, if it's someone that's, a stranger, we don't have any mutual friends, and while we're in a relationship and I become friends with some of your friends, it will definitely depend on the level of friendship that I have with the person. Now, if it was just when we hang out with the person here and there. Now, if we break up, why am I hanging out with you? Because we never really established any relationship outside of you. Now, if me and that person, we hanging out, where you're not around, and I feel like, we develop a good bond and relationship, as long as they okay with the relationship, I will definitely continue to do so.
Yeah. What do you think, Naika?
Yeah, like she said, it's true. If I'm in a relationship with someone and we break up, and our mutual friend that you introduced me to became really close friends of mine, we're close. Usually when you break up with the person, you can actually determine if those people were actually your friend. If they start to take sides and they're taking his sides, they're definitely not your friend. So I would advise for you to keep it moving, because that person loyalty lies with my ex, not me. So therefore they're not my friend. But if you're seeing that, they're being they're not picking a side, that means, and they still want to continue that relationship, I don't feel any reason for me to stop the relationship if they still want to be my friend and they're not picking any sides. So it really depends on the person that you're friend with. If they're picking a side, then most likely they're not your friend. If they're not and they still want to continue being your friend, I don't see why not. You should just be their friend. It's that simple to me.
Okay. And I have one more question, guys, from Facebook this time, from Gillian. She asked, would you date someone who had a best friend of the opposite sex and they had once dated as well? I'll go to you, Tanis. I can't hear you, Tanis.
I didn't hear the question clearly.
So the question is, would you date someone who had a best friend of the opposite sex that they dated in the past?
Would I date a person of one more time? I'm so sorry.
So would you date someone who had a best friend of the opposite sex that they once dated?
Is this person my friend?
Who, the best friend?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't.
A good way to put it is,
specify.
if your boyfriend has a best friend that he dated, would you date them? That's really
No.
what they're asking.
Basically, yeah.
No. That's it. No. There's no explanation. No.
It's a hot mess.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Victor?
It's funny because, like I said, I'm one who doesn't burn. I don't burn bridges, and I feel when you date somebody, and it depends on the type of relationship, but you dated them for a reason. And you know what I'm saying? There was some type of connection. And if the relationship was good and the relationship just ended because of a certain reason, it wasn't toxic, it wasn't a bad breakup. But you looked in the future and you saw I could not spend the rest of my life with this person. But this is like, we were best friends before the relationship. We were best friends in the relationship. And I feel we would be best friends after a relationship. I don't see why I should just drop you because we didn't work out. You see what I'm saying? Because I have a friend who's one of my best friends and we dated, but I didn't see a future going with her. She was going a different path than I was going. I was going a different path than she was going. But she's one person who gives great advice. One person who I can see being in my life for the rest of my life because she's one who can add value to my life. So I don't see why I should cut her off because we broke up and we didn't make it as a relationship. So for you, I'm not coming at anyone who said anything, but for you to feel like because this person's best friend is someone who is their ex, I can't be with them, then I feel like that's where trust issues come in because you can't judge one person based off of their past. You have to look at where they are now, have they grown from it, and where they're going. If the problem is they can always go back, they dated before, then it's just like you don't trust me, and then you shouldn't date me then because how you have a relationship without trust.
Very good point, Victor. And so, Rose, last but not least, last question. If you break up with someone and you had developed a close relationship with their family members, do you cut that off as well?
Okay, now develop a close relationship. And I know that I always hear people say that, once, you were with me, you broke up with me, like broke up with my family and everything like that. I think it also go back with the same friendship. Now, there are some family members that, while you were in the relationship, they were very supportive. And I think it basically the same thing, like, with the loyalty and the type of relationship that I had with the person as well. And It will also have to be into my own level of comfort, I would say. If I feel like,
Yeah.
if I'm still talking to your family and, I'm not comfortable just because we had a close relationship, I could still love them from a distance, but I don't have to go to the house all the time, you know? I don't have to still be part of the family because we're no longer together. But it all come down, I would say, for me, on the type of relationship that I had with the person. Like, let's say, for example, that okay, um, the person that I was dating, their sister or their cousin is my best friend, right? Or we are very close friends. Now, with the sister, I will always be part of the family. If there's any type of function, my friend will invite me to the function. And I think where the problem will probably start is when you start dating another person. And then now that significant other will be like, why are you always hanging out with your ex family? And aren't you supposed to just break it off? And as long as they know that the relationship is strictly with their family member, I have nothing to do with my ex, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I think it all gonna come down to trust. Do you trust me? And I also have to show you that I care enough about you. And if my partner does not feel comfortable, now I'm gonna have to, have an honest, talk with myself. Okay, is this a relationship that I want to continue? Or is the friendship is actually more valuable for me, or at least within our communication, and say, okay, let me try to explain to him the dynamic of the relationship that I have with that person's family, but that does not necessarily mean that me and that person are still hanging out together. We don't talk to each other, but that's his sister and that's my best friend, or that's his cousin, and those people, I consider them as family, especially when it's someone that you know from your childhood. You ended up knowing a lot of the family members, and that person could, eventually that's someone that you become family. I think it's just going to have for you to reassure um, your partner, and as well setting up boundaries with whatever other relationship that you're going to be in.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Rose. And I want to thank everybody for their time. I want to thank you guys for volunteering your time to be on the panel tonight, for answering our questions, for answering our audience's questions. And I want to thank our audience for tuning in and also calling in and asking your questions. I want to thank our team, GV, ND, Mina, Sephora, Patricello, for putting this show together, and Max Sejour for always giving us his constructive feedback, because our goal is to get better and better each episode. Once again, this was Ted, and thank you for watching Drop Mic. Have a good night.